and stuff.
Okay, welcome to this evening's meeting of Taunton Town Council. I'd like to advise everyone present that if you hear a long continuous silence, this is the fire alarm. Please don't pick up your belongings. You should leave the building through the nearest and safest exit by the back of the office through the police stairwell. If this route is blocked, you should exit the building through the main marble staircase. When exiting the building, proceed up the ramp and turn right. All attendees should congregate at the rear of the top car park where a register will be taken. Wait until you are told it is safe to re-enter the building. If you're a councillor, we have added you to the register. If you're a visitor and have not signed the register, please do so now. Additionally, whilst the fire alarm is sounding, do not use the lift to exit the building. Can I please remind everyone to please put your mobile phones on silent mode and put the phone away for the duration of the meeting, thereby avoiding interference from your iPad or with the microphone. The meeting will be recorded and live streamed on YouTube, and therefore, when speaking, please remember to speak clearly. As the chair of the meeting, I have the discretion to terminate or suspend recording and live streaming if, in my opinion, continuing to do so would prejudice the proceeding of the meeting. Recording and live streaming of confidential items will also not take place. To alert me as the chair of the meeting that you would like to speak, please raise your hand and wait for me to call upon you before speaking. Please remember, if you leave the meeting for any reason, you will not be able to take part in the vote on the item that is being discussed at that time. Members of the public will be able to view the live stream of the meeting via YouTube. Please can I request that when speaking, you make your points as succinct as possible to allow for the smooth running of the meeting. Can I also take this opportunity to remind you to be polite and treat each other with respect at all times. Thank you. Starting with public question time, which I think is Vicky Robbins, Executive Director of the Brewhouse Theatre.
Further down the list, it's not a question. I'm not posing a question. I'm supporting an agenda item further down the list.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, fine. And so, apologies for absence. Apologies were received from Councillor Simon Lester, Councillor Connor Solly, and Councillor Ben Fernandez. And secondly, declarations of interest. Does anyone have any declarations they wish to make about any of the items on the agenda? Okay, thank you. And the minutes. Next, we need to approve and sign as a correct record the minutes of the previous council meeting held on the 12th of November 2024. I need a proposer and a seconder, please. Thank you, Amber Packer-Hughes. Seconder. Thank you, Councillor Strauss. And could I have a show of hands that these minutes are correct, please? Thank you. Yes, that's universally carried. Right, to note the minutes and actions arising from the committees shown below. Finance and Governance Committee held on the 17th of September, Personnel Committee on the 9th of October, Planning and Development and Licensing Committee on the 24th of October, and Community and Place Committee on the 4th of October. And please note that any committee meeting minutes referred to full council requiring approval will be listed separately, but I think we're doing this as a group, the whole group. So I need a proposer. Thank you, Amber Packer-Hughes, and the seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Tom Deacon. And could I again have a show of hands? Yes, Thank you very much. That's universally carried. And next, you're going to receive some announcements from me. This is just a rundown of what I've done since I last saw you. First of all, I'd like to wish you all a very happy Christmas. This Advent has been particularly busy and particularly stormy. Sadly, the Winterfest light switch on was cancelled, and that was a massive disappointment, I think, for everyone concerned. Then Storm Dana seemed to scupper a lot of other fun activities and meant that all the audiences at Christmas concerts have been quite low. I did enjoy Councillor Strauss's rum event, which he arranged, and hope for many more such events in the future. This was followed by the official opening of the Cool Town restaurant, sister to Matt and Cherry. The Malayali community are proving to be a big asset to the life of Taunton. Andy Sprague organised another unveiling of the Charter of Compassion with music. A big thanks to Councillor Strauss, Councillor O'Donnell and Councillor Fernandez for coming to support it. The long run 500th Park Run was a huge success, and I can testify that Councillor O'Donnell completed the course. Hooray. Wishing him every success in his new venture on Somerset Council as well. Lots of Christmas shows and music. I love Pinocchio at the Brew House. A great modernisation of this classic tale and lots of fun. I laughed out loud with a little 4-year-old in front of me. It's a show sure to engage everyone. I also enjoyed Amici Choir's rendition of Handel's Messiah, but was absolutely overwhelmed by soloist Xiao Shen's world-class performance of Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue with Somerset County Orchestra, which I heard at Queen's College. It was absolutely stunning. I've been to listen to Louis Martello and also the West Somerset Singers. Christmas fundraisers, both of them, but they were sadly poor attended because of the weather. And one very sad thing happened recently, which was the demise of our Taunton Sinfonietta, who decided not to continue. I'm now looking into what can be done to give reports to the Arts and Culture Group. I've enjoyed a couple of Christmas lunches too with the Taunton Heritage Trust, the Rotary and the Diversity Voice Christmas Party. It's very humbling to be thanked for just turning up. And finally, just yesterday, we all enjoyed carols around the bandstand despite the cold. And I'd just like to thank Team Taunton Town Council for all their hard work. I think it was a marvellous event. I love the choirs, they were stupendous. And I also want to thank the Scouts for collecting and for the massive support given by most people here in this room. Thank you very much. Moving on to receive any communications or announcements from the leader of the council.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. I'll also be relatively brief, given we were here what feels like only a few days ago, about 4 weeks or so ago. Christmas is clearly the focus around town at the moment, and rightly so. And I think, slightly biased, I think this year's Christmas light display looks amazing. And there's nice new additions and some different features. And I think the reaction has been overwhelmingly positive, which is great to hear. So thank you to everyone involved in making that happen. Equally, I thought your Caravan Bandstand was brilliant last night, and the team did a great job in again showing Taunton in an amazing light. So thoroughly enjoyed that. Just an encouragement to anyone listening, residents, to just remember to shop local over the next few weeks in the run up to Christmas. Use our high street, particularly our independent traders who are there all year round. So that's not just use them over the next few weeks, but all year round. Particularly, they need us. So please do use the high street wherever possible. And as this is our final full council of the year, I just wanted to put on record my thanks to all members around the room, all members of staff, everyone who's contributed to the town council this year. It's been another important year for us, our first full year in existence. And just thank you for what everyone's done. I think we've had a brilliant year and a lot more to come.
Thank you, Councillor Deacon. Next up, it's reports from chairs of committees. I don't know who is going to start this off. Okay, thank you. Councillor.
Yeah, just a very quick report from the Personnel Committee. There was a lot of looking at policies. We looked at the flexible working policy, the employment recognition scheme, the remote working policy, sexual harassment policy, and we also reviewed the staff budgets. Recommend that to the full council. It's all in the minutes, and just some really useful policies that can read and hopefully support our staff.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Any other committees? Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell.
Oh, right. You should. Okay. So I got a quick report from Councillor Fernandez for the community in place. I'll just highlight a couple. Going back to the shopping local over Christmas, we do have we've arranged free parking now on Saturday the 14th and Saturday the 21st. So there's no excuse. We'll all come to Taunton and shop locally. The other big thing is, of course, is that whilst you're out shopping, the community place has laid on a lot of entertainment for you in the town centre over the next few weeks. So there's a lot to enjoy while you're there. Important piece of news is that we have agreed our formal process for selecting the deputy mayors, and that will begin this in February. So please look out for that. So between the weeks leading up to the March full council, we'll be looking for applications for who would like to consider being the deputy mayor next year. Just one last thing on the community place. I was wondering if the mayor received my email about the swimathon. You didn't? Okay, well, I'll deal with it.
No, sorry. Yeah.
While I'm here, can I just quickly also do the operations and assets report? There has been no meetings, so there's really nothing to mention, except for one last thing, since Councillor Smith-Wallace isn't here. At the last operations and assets meeting, we had expressed an interest in putting out porta cabins outside Paul Street toilets, but that is not possible in discussion, and Megan has sent around a report to all members outlining the reasons, and I really do endorse that report. So if we can just close that down, we will not be able to put out porta cabins over Christmas outside. And that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Fernand?
Thank you. Yes, this is a report from Connor, who's normally the chair. At the planning committee in November, we received requests from the public, from residents, to put in to make changes to the roads, such as putting in red and yellow lines and putting in crossing signs along different places, such as Park Street and Church Street. We were asked by Somerset Council to make a comment on the first phase of their local plan, which will go forwards to decide how they will make allocations for certain pieces of land, or what needs to be allocated in terms of housing developments, or what goes forward in terms of the planning strategy. The closing deadline we felt was too short for the committee itself to make a recommendation, so it was recommended that individual councillors put in their own comments within the consultation. And finally, we have an issue, but we received information about the latest on phosphates in terms of what needs to be mitigated compared to the amount of applications that Somerset Council are receiving in. In terms of applications themselves, we received 7 planning applications and 8 licensing applications, and there was also a request to remove bollards just outside Vibery Park that are blocking cyclists going down from the past. That came at a cost of £1,335 from Somerset Council's contractor Kia. And the planning committee, I believe, approved that.
Thank you very much. Are there any, sorry, councillor Tully?
Thank you, Chair. I apologise for being late. Unfortunately, everybody seems to wait for Taunton tonight. The Finance and Governments met on the 19th of November. I think most of it is coming up later on in this meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Any others? Councillor Strauss.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a very brief announcement. The Community-Based Committee approved the formation of a new working group, Hospitality, Leisure and Tourism, which I will be chairing up until the mayor making. And assuming I'm elected mayor, and I stress I have to be elected mayor, I will then stand down. I have my colleague, the current mayor, who's agreed to join me. I'm looking for at least one other councillor, and I'm going to be bringing in a number of independent experts from within Taunton. It's very important we have 3 councillors. So if anybody is interested and you want to discuss it with me, happy to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's started report from outside bodies appointees. Are there any reports from outside bodies? So therefore we go on to approve the following appointees to some outside bodies. Councillor Rob Isaacs for North Taunton Development Group Chair. Councillor Caroline Ellis for Hearing Loss Champion. Councillor Tom Deacon for Somerset and Exmoor Local Visitor Economy Partnership, substituted by Councillor Amber Packer Hughes, where if Tom isn't available. LCN Highways Working Group, unappointed position. We're looking for any nominations. The next meeting for this is the 30th of January. So are there any nominations? This one, that's LCN Highways Working Group. No?
I have a question on that one. Is it a case of, do we have to have like a sort of nominated board? Can't we just rock up if we are free and have an interest? Does it have to be a certain person?
Does it,
In terms of
does it have to be a certain person?
In terms of reference.
Okay. All right, well, I'll show, there's also the Equalities and Diversity Champion. We need to find someone for that as well. So, yes, sorry, Donna.
Councillor Smith Roberts has volunteered for that position.
I was going to second that proposal. We'd already discussed this.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Packer Hughes. Okay,
You do need a parish representative.
but we do need for the LCN, but we do need a parish representative for the LCN Highways Working Group. I mean, ideally, it should come from planning, shouldn't it? I would think. Not to put any pressure on you, Councillor Furman. Thank you very much, Councillor Furman. Right, for these nominations, can I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor Strauss, and a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Tully, and a show of hands, please, that you all approve of these. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's number 9, item number 9, to receive any reports or communications from Somerset councillors. No,
Well,
no, Councillor Deacon.
A very brief thing from me again to be updated last month, my colleague Lee Baker and I will be hosting our regular residents of my surgery on the 21st of December, Community Centre, 10 until 12. 10 a.m. until 12 p.m. That is not 10 till 12 in the evening.
Thank you. Then item 10, oh, sorry.
Just to know if this may be of interest, on, is it Wednesday, it's full council, Somerset Council, full council, and one of the issues that we'll be discussing and voting on is the council tax reduction scheme for the working age people, and when there are going to be some changes to that. The people on the very lowest income, we're absolutely protecting them. There will be some kind of losers and then people who are going to lose out in the middle, because we've had to find savings because there's still a 50+ million deficit staring us in the face. But anyone who is set to lose money from that will be looking to put that right through things like the exceptional hardship scheme and also the government's household support scheme. So it's not going to be a fun meeting that, and there's still this horrific deficit that's obviously relevant for Taunton, because we can't, we're going to end up sort of picking up the tab, as it were, because of the continued underfunding of local government. I don't think the local government finance settlement that normally comes through before Christmas, but I don't think that's come through yet. So yes, interesting time. So you might want to look up. Well, if you don't want to tune in, you can look up what happens after.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, Councillor Lees.
You say me? Yeah. Yes, sorry. I hear the problem, and I'm struggling to hear what people are saying. Something. I should say. So people speak up a little bit louder. It's very, very grateful.
Thank you very much. Could I also have sorry, moving on to number 10 then, the forward plan. So members to note the forward plan and agree to it. So I need a proposer for this. Thank you, Councillor Deacon, and I need a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Isaac, and could I have a show of hands? Sorry, Councillor Ellis.
I have a question.
Okay.
In Goodland Gardens Bridge is TBC when that's next coming to us, but we did have consultation and there was a kind of clear statement from that. And I know that lots of work has been done in the background. I'm just very anxious that we crack on and are seen to crack on. So can we have that on the January? Otherwise, it's pushing back to March. We've been, it's. I don't want this to be something that we're still talking about in X years' time. Just need to kind of press on and take the next steps.
Yes, Marcus.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, so the consultation has closed. We had a really good response rate. I think around 200 responses, which was really positive to see. We need to take them away and analyse them. I believe you as a council delegated to the Planning, Development and Licensing Committee to oversee the progress of that project, and updates have been given to that committee. So that would be where I suggest the consultation feedback is first fed back, and obviously we use some of the remaining budget for the spend on the studies for the local surveying company to support us both with the consultation exercise drop in here at Deane House and also in seeking a further information from potential bridge suppliers, which has all been supplied. So it's just a case of putting it all together, which we're working together behind the scenes to bring it forward to planning, and then obviously into full council in due course.
My question would be, if it's got to go planning first, when could we expect it to come to full council? Because it seems ridiculous. We spent all this money, an amazing amount of work has been done, which is amazing. Thank you. There's had all this engagement, and still it's like if you ask, so is Taunton Town Council going to build us a new bridge? Well, we haven't decided yet, and it's just getting a bit silly from my point, from where I'm standing. So I'm just eager that there's an actual time frame. So planning as a whatever gives it the once over, then it comes to full council. The next time it comes to full council, which needs to be soon, it needs to be decision time. Come on, are we doing this or what?
Yes, yeah, okay, that's good. So, I mean, yeah. Okay, I think we're in agreement with you, yeah. Okay, so can I then, note the forward plan and, that got to be added then, that's one change. And can I have a proposer again? It's Councillor Deacon, thank you, and a seconder, Councillor Strauss, and a show of hands. Thank you very much. So the next thing is Cannon Street and Hamilton Galt tender. And as Councillor Federica Smith Roberts isn't here, sorry, she.
Megan.
Thank you, Megan.
Thank you, Chair. Before I start, can I just check if the Vice Chair would like to, if the Toilet Working Group would like to introduce this item?
I'm happy to add, but I'm aware that you'll probably want to speak with the notes at the moment, but I'll happily interject and add any input that I can.
Wanted to check. Okay, so we are asking members to consider the presentation from the highest scoring bidder of the outcome from our tender exercise. So they are here this evening and they're going to give us a presentation. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the procurement exercise. So this was undertaken in line with the financial regulations. We received a number of really high quality bids. We scored them against a wide range of things, but predominantly price, experience, project methodology, timeline, sustainability, their climate practices. We also looked at their location and the location of the contractors subcontractors they would be using for the project. The panel scoring the bids was made up of 5 officers. We all reviewed and scored each bid independently, so we didn't speak to each other about those bids. We then came together and discussed our scores, and all of us had the same bidder as our highest scoring bidder who was with us this evening. So we were all very much in agreement. So next steps from here, so if this contractor is approved, issue a letter of intent within the next day or 2, so preliminary work can begin, and then a formalised contract will come in the new year. Bring up those contractors take a little bit of time. And then the plan would be to start work on site within the first week or 2 of January, and with a view of all of the work being complete by the end of March. But I will hand over to our proposed contractor now. We've got some slides that will be up on screen that they will talk to, and then we can take any questions.
Thank you.
Yes, good evening. So, yeah, I'm Lloyd Phelps, pre-construction manager for ARC. So we've just put together, being asked for speak 5 minutes, explain a little bit about ARC and the project itself. So ARC is a chartered building company, founded in 2004. So we've been going, well, we celebrated our 20-year anniversary this year. We're a local building contractor who specialise in refurbishment projects, mainly in the public sector, so that public sector, so that's healthcare, education, public sector, local authority clients. As part of being a local contractor, we look to promote local employment opportunities, whether that be directly employed labour, subcontracted labour, and working with local companies and suppliers. And as you can see, there's a few of our accreditations that we've got. So ISO 9001, which is our environmental certificate showing the practices, GBAT standard, and things such as construction line and CHAS, which are health and safety accreditations, to all go towards us being able to work for public sector clients and local authorities, which is that stamp to show we meet the required standards for public sector procurement practices. The next slide is just some 3D visuals which Cartagenus, the architects for this project, have drawn up. So just to give you an idea, we've got the existing floor plan and elevations on the left, those on the right. So it's a general internal and external refurbishment of the toilet block, 5 new WC facilities, general vision of the areas to form some extra changing places, facilities along with individual and separate female changing areas. The next slide is project team. So the contracts manager for this project, Martin Phillips, he's worked for ARC for the last 15 years, has 30 years experience in the building trade. Martin will be the point of contact for the delivery of this project from a health and safety point of view, programme, delivery, and the general liaison with the site manager on a day-to-day basis. Martin's got extensive experience in working on various WC refurbishment works, etc. Along with Martin, so the next slide is the quantity surveyor for the project. So that's Gavin Faulkner. Again, Gavin will work alongside Martin, so Gavin will be in charge of the financials of this project, ensure that the project budget and cost control are with Gavin, so he'll be liaising with the council on budgets, and if there's any changes, bits and pieces, and how those might financially impact projects. But those guys, along with the site manager, will be the and representatives of ARC on this project. Next slide is workforce and subcontractors. So being a local contractor, we work with local subcontractors and suppliers as much as possible where we can. We feel, one, we get better value for money, delivery on sites better, working with local contractors. They know the area, know the local supply chain. We're employing local people, which brings benefits. You haven't got guys traveling 2, 3, 4 hours. How that works. So this project will be utilising local subcontractors. We've got RAF Electrics, local Taunton based subcontractor who we've carried out various previous projects with. We understand how we work, we understand how they work, standards and quality of health and safety and the product on site at the end. And then again, for the mechanical works or the plumbing works, another local contractor, heat radiation, again, based in Taunton, for the various other trade packages as well, to utilise local subcontractors where we can, supplemented with our own direct labour force. After that, I think the next slide is sustainability. Sort of touched on previously, ARC, we're ISO 14001 certified. We're committed to achieving net zero emissions by 2045. As much as possible we can with our projects. We focus on reducing our carbon footprint through energy efficient operations, sustainable practices where we can. So, for example, the photo on the right hand corner is a new electric van that we've purchased. So, as part of our commitment, we're looking to roll out electric EV vans over the next coming years. Question fleet. Other things that we'll go about from a sustainable point of view is our waste management. So, one of the key things we try for all our refurbishment projects is obviously waste generated on any building projects. We try to segregate our waste as much as possible and not be putting waste into waste skips and sending up to landfills. So we try and separate out as much building material as we can. Look to recycle. and other bits and pieces, sustainable materials to make sure that we're procuring our materials such as timbers, for example, from sustainable sources. And I suppose really from our carbon footprint point of view, EV vehicles and the use of a local supply chain, being a local subcontractor, helps to reduce our fuel emissions, travelling to work, etc. That's a little bit on the sustainable side of ARC and this project. And really the last bit is the project timeline. So if we go to the next slide, part of our tender submission, we were at, that's probably a bit too sore for anyone, I can't read either. As part of our tender submission, we were asked to produce an outline programme based on some dates. So as previously discussed, we'd be looking to, doing well, we'd be looking to start the project on Monday the 13th of January. It's currently a 10-week contract period, which, as we say, gives an end date of the end of March. We've obviously got 2 toilet blocks or 2 areas that we're working on. So both Cannon Street and Hamilton Gaunt will be running concurrently, with Cannon Street being so that will take up the full contract period and look to fit Hamilton Gaunt in and around the works taking place at Cannon Street. Yeah, no, I think that's my 5 minutes of fame. It's a little bit to do with ARC. I'd say hopefully we look forward to working with you guys on that project and successfully delivering it.
Are there any questions that you'd like to ask? Anyone would like to ask about this? Councillor Pasquin.
The only thing I note in the report that I'd be a bit concerned about is the reliance on the solar panel funding grants and the water, or whatever it is, the tank for the harvesting. So that's relying that we get that funding, and if not, we would have to find the funding from within our own budget at the moment. Is that right? From what the report's saying?
So the solar panels have moved on slightly since I submitted the report. So we are looking at funding that ourselves now. There's quite a nice contingency in our budget, so we're potentially going to use a little bit of that to fund the solar panels ourselves instead of going for grant funding for Cannon Street specifically. So we can do all of the work at the same time as what the contractors are doing, and then potentially use that grant funding or apply for that grant funding for other sites across Deane, which are less timescale driven. And then in relation to the rainwater harvesting, so we need to have further conversations on that. The surveyor has estimated that costing around £15,000. That's why we've not included it in this specific budget. And that's why we're looking for grant funding for it. There is potential that we would need to fund that ourselves in the future if for it. But all of the work that we do now will enable us to put that in the future if we need to. So we would prepare the pipe work, and I don't know the specifics, I'm not going to pretend to know the specifics, but we would prepare all of that part of this work in the future. When available, we could put the rainwater harvesting in, but the cost is the reason we haven't included that in the specific at this stage.
Any other questions? Councillor Furman.
Thank you. You noticed in the timeline that you aim to complete the work by the end of March. Should, for some unforeseen reason, it go over that time, will there be extra charges, or will you just keep working within that budget with what you can?
There's two reasons for delay. If the delay is the contractor's fault, then no, there won't be any extra charges, etc. If, for example, there's additional works required or come across unforeseen things, asbestos and bits and pieces, which delay the project, then yes, those will have time and cost implications. But we'll look to work with the project team on that. And that's why we employ people like Gavin Faulkner who look after the numbers. So that he's in regular contact and updating with budgets, and there'll always be that rolling final account. So people are aware of what the end date is, as opposed to walking up on the 30th of January, March, and saying there's a bill for a load of extra stuff and everyone being well. So yeah, no, the project team. To answer your question, I suppose that depends who's the reason for the delay. So if it's our fault through slow workmanship, etc., then no, there won't be any cost implications. But if there are additional works, for example, which may deem to have time implications, then there probably will be some extra costs involved with just site manager time and hire of plants, etc. To manage those budgets and keep in regular contact, so no one gets any nasty surprises at the end.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Deacon.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you for the presentation. I'm sorry, I can't quite see you right now. Thank you. It's not so much a question, more just to say that I'm just thrilled that we're at this point and hopefully imminently about to start work. It was one of our key strategies and at the start of the year ambition was to make sure that we were showing our residents that we were upgrading our public toilets, not just keeping them as they are, but actively going and making them better. So I'm just delighted that we're very, very close to seeing that action on the time in January. I think it's made even better for me that you're a local firm using local contractors. I think that's just wonderful, and sustainability rooted within everything that you're doing as well. So I think this is just ticking a huge number of boxes for me. It's coming to the budget we wanted it to. We're going to end up with a brilliant outcome. I can't wait for the work to get started, and just thank you to our team, who I know put a lot of effort into getting to this point as well. And I know it's taken probably a bit more time than we would like to have seen. I think we've now got a really good blueprint for when we go to other sites around the town. So we've done a lot of work putting the groundwork in. But so not a question for you guys, but just hopefully we'll move on with this tonight and get going in January.
Councillor Two.
That working? Yeah. More practical, I'm not sure if you can answer this, but the temporary toilets that are going in, will that affect the number of car parking spaces dramatically? And will those toilets be accessible? Because I think the current ones are. So will we need to tell people that they need to find an alternative before they go there and realise they can't go in with a wheelchair?
So there will be temporary toilets at Cannon Street. There won't be temporary toilets at Taunton Golf. But in Cannon Street, yes, there will be an accessible quarterly. The plans for those temporary toilets are still kind of going through the licensing with Somerset Council at the moment, but they wouldn't actually take up any of the paid parking spaces in Cannon Street car park, but the proposed site compound would take up some parking spaces because the contractor would need space around this toilet to carry out the work. But yes, in answer to your question, there will be accessible temporary toilets in the car park vicinity.
Any other questions? Councillor Strauss.
Yes, I was one of the two councillors, along with Councillor Ray Tully, for Halcombe and Lane, includes Hamilton Gold. I just want to pass on the very favourable comments made by local residents. We have a very high proportion of elderly and disabled people in our ward. This is an excellent move. I'd just like to thank my colleagues and the officers for making this happen. Thank you.
Councillor O'Donnell.
Just also going on about some of the risks. It's one of the risks about licenses coming through in time from Somerset Council. Would that be one of the criteria for increasing the cost? You know where we are with the licenses from Somerset Council. And I was just going to ask, what does the toilet box come with an energy rating?
In terms of licensing for the temporary toilets and the site compound, so we started conversations with Somerset Council months ago, and they're fully aware of all of our timelines. So the next step for that is once our contractor is hopefully we can then confirm where the site compound will be, and then we can make those license applications. The turnaround time we've been told should be a few days, but they are aware that we need to start work. We need to get those temporary toilets in before we can start working in the time frame. the energy rating question, I don't know the answer to, but I presume.
Well, as contractors, I don't think we'd be able to tell you that. That's probably something you'd have to investigate with Carter Jones, the designers. Designing tech, running the technicalities.
We'll pick that one up.
Thank you. So can we then consider then? We've been asked to consider the presentation from the highest scoring bidder following the procurement exercise to secure a contractor for the upgrades to Cannon Street and Hamilton Gold at a maximum cost of 250,000, excluding VAT. Members are asked to approve the instruction of the recommended contractor, so a letter of intent can be issued, contracts can be exchanged, and work can commence as soon as possible in the new year. And members are asked to give delegated powers to the clerk to enter the contract agreement. So could I have a proposer? Yes, thank you, Councillor Hughes, and second, okay, Councillor O'Donnell. And a show of hands, please. I think that's unanimous, thank you. Okay, item 12. I'm calling on Councillor Deane or Councillor Packer Hughes to introduce the topic. Brewhouse Theatre.
Thank you very much, Madam. I might pass to Marcus shortly just to add a bit more context, but I think we're all aware that over recent months we've been in conversation with the Brewhouse and ensuring that we keep a really essential part of our cultural offering in the town going and preserving it for the future. And I'm pleased that having attended the AGM recently at the Brewhouse to hear about their success. And I just think it's essential that we've been able to preserve that and play our role as a town council. So I think the item tonight really is about formalising our support and receiving council's agreement that I, with colleagues, go away to negotiate with the Brewhouse what a more formalised agreement and funding might look like for the longer term, so that we can help them continue and improve and drive the amazing things that they're doing in our towns. That's the point of the item on the agenda this evening. I don't know if Marcus, you wanted to add any more to that, and then maybe we've got Vicky from the Brewhouse who might want to say a few words as well.
Yes, so are there any questions about this one? Oh, sorry. Marcus.
Thank you, Madam, and thank you, Councillor Deane. And yeah, I'm happy to make a couple of remarks. I hope everyone's had a chance to read the report that's been supplied, as well as the appendices which show the letters that have been back and forth in between, obviously the member briefings and the negotiations that have taken place over the last several months. So just to draw attention really that this is obviously really aligned with our sort of corporate plan, which has a key priority for a vibrant culture, and our recently adopted arts and culture strategy from 2024 to 2027, which, as the report states, rightly places the Brewhouse as a key piece of the cultural scene in Taunton and the wider region, and commits to adopting an assets policy that aims to secure the future of key buildings critical for our arts, culture and heritage in light of Somerset Council's financial emergency. And so obviously the report sets out that the situation that has arisen in terms of the termination of the current lease, and sets out a way forward that is taken forward in between negotiations between all parties, and those have reached a positive conclusion over the last several months. And there have been a number of concessions made, such as the lease term of 50 years is now on offer rather than the original 25 to 30 years sought. Landlord and tenant break options to protect both parties, continuing substantial remedial works until the end of the lease in 2026. There's a commitment to any break of redevelopment will also bind Somerset to the building of a replacement theatre or reimbursement of capital investment. They'll be willing to enter further negotiations with the town council, which may facilitate the Brewhouse to generate additional income, and a lease to the Theatre Association for a peppercorn rent. So in terms of the partnership and the future partnership arrangement with Taunton Theatre Association, we've been in close contact with the chair and director of PTA who are here tonight, which is great to see. And third part, there are obviously a multitude of ways that we can be involved in those partnerships. So we can provide financial assistance, which will obviously be worked out in the detail of the SLA. We obviously have an in-house maintenance team, so there could be potential opportunities there to rationalise and support. Obviously, there were some concerns raised around the insurance. So we have explored what the options there could be in terms of facilitating that and making sure that the building could be covered. So there are a number of ways that the Town Council and Taunton Theatre Association could work to support each other in line with the cultural strategy. There's a SWOT analysis in the report which shows the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats with the option. But I think with the proposal that's before you in terms of the recommendation, it seems like the strongest one that through the negotiation could have been secured. I think so that, you know, the Taunton Theatre Association have that security of a 50-year lease, and Taunton Town Council has protected itself from any obligations, but obviously wants to support the ongoing cultural facility in the town. Thank you, Chair.
Vicky, would you like to say something?
Very much. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to speak to you this evening about the work that Taunton Brewhouse does in our community, aside from just being a theatre venue. I'd like to start by sharing with you some of the statistics that we delivered to our AGM related to the year 23-24, of which I know many of you attended. It was a record-breaking year for us, with over 81,000 visitors during the year, which was a 25% increase on the previous year. We had 260 live events, 121 film screenings, 483 creative activities, and more than 50 community groups using our spaces. The current year, we continue to grow and develop our audience and plan to increase the number of live events and creative activities. We've also taken part in many community events, including the Typer Festival and Taunton Together. We continue to build partnerships with local charities such as the Homeless Charity Ark, St Giles Animal Rescue and Taunton Food Bank, providing free of charge spaces for their fundraising events, giving Food Bank family free tickets to our Christmas show, which I was delighted to do just this morning. Took 60 tickets over. Taunton Theatre Association, TTA, who have operated Taunton Brewhouse for the last 10 years, are a charity committed to supporting our community, making the creative and visual arts accessible to all. We've already developed ways of absorbing costs which were previously covered by Somerset Council grant funding, but assistance with the cost of maintaining the building for the town is both vital and welcome. We're thrilled to have the opportunity to work with Taunton Town Council to help deliver the arts and culture strategy, work in partnership with the many other creative organisations in town. The staff and trustees of TTA recognise that the responsibility for the theatre lies with TTA as a charity. We will continue to work to ensure this vital resource remains a pivotal community asset for long into the future. Having recently received top awards in the arts and culture category of the West Country Women's Awards and the age-friendly category of the Bristol and Bath and Somerset Tourism Awards, we hope this demonstrates our resilience, commitment to community and bringing culture to Taunton. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have a question? Councillor Ellis.
It's not really a question, it's more of a statement. I just think that what TTA has done over the last 10 years is nothing short of kind of miraculous, and it's born of that just utter commitment to community from when Val sort of walked in and you know, dragged the brew house out of a phoenix from the ashes. And you know, it's just incredible what you've done, and hats off to you as well, Vicky. I just think, you know, you've been through so much. First of all, there's COVID, there was all the building works over at Coal Orchard. You really, the word resilient doesn't really do you justice. And I'm just incredibly grateful for Taunton's sake that you guys are not just, you haven't just hung on by the skin of your teeth throughout all of the different things that have been thrown in your way. You have remained not just resilient, but kind of pushing forward all the time. You're getting better and better, delivering more for more people, becoming ever more the linchpin of our community, just doing so much to help other people and groups in the community, charities. And I think, you know, the future is looking very bright, and I do think the brew house is a force to be reckoned with. It is a major regional centre for culture and the arts, as well as being a huge engine community development. So I just think absolutely hats off to you, the way that you guys have come through so many difficulties and just forged on. I just think it's amazing, and I'm just so grateful for all the happy times and the joy and the creativity that you bring to this town. Thank you.
Yeah, that's so endorse that, yeah.
No, just respond quickly to that. Thank you very much, Councillor Ellis. Words are very much appreciated. When I was lucky enough to attend the West Country Women Awards a couple of weeks back, only to be awarded with the prize was incredible, but I do not credit it just to myself and to Val and the trustees. It's the entire team of now probably around 25 staff and 130 odd volunteers. Those are the people that keep that place going. And we're eternally grateful to them. And they're the ones that display the resilience. We just help them along the way.
Thank you very much. So then, which is recommended that the council consider, oh, sorry, councillor Faskini.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I fully support the statement that the brew house plays a vital part of the cultural life for the area. I am a bit hesitant with some of the threats and the weaknesses within this document now, and I am a bit hesitant that we don't know the full picture, because that's going to be put down the line later. And it could be insignificant, but it could also be very significant, those figures. So one of my questions is, if Somerset Council was to issue a Section 114 notice in the next year or two, could they effectively evict you immediately to sell the asset, because government inspectors will come in and say we want it gone, etc., etc. Then what would that mean in terms of them being hold over the coals to replace the theatre, because it says £7 million. Well, I don't know really what you get for £7 million in a modern day theatre these days. I think the million cost 8. So that's another question for myself. And then also just in terms of what do you expect, because obviously you're going to take the risk on for the full repair of the lease, and I think in the previous report we saw it was nearly, future estimates of about £500,000. How you've forecasted to raise that money, because obviously it's quite substantial. I think a lot of it's down to upgrading of lighting things and roofs and various bits and bobs. So I just have a couple of concerns there, but obviously if they're answered, then.
If I need to answer those, if that's okay with Val and with this. Firstly, the question about if Somerset Council goes into that one. So all of this, our lease arrangements are being discussed and agreed currently, and the intention is to have everything written into a letter of intent in the very early parts of next year, and then have as soon as the break clause is issued, which is at the end of April 25, it will automatically be replaced with a new lease starting 26. So if they were to go into that horrible situation of bankruptcy, we will already be tied up and done and dusted. So that, in terms of that, there's no risk to them suddenly going, oh my God, no, we're going to sell the asset, because that is not their intention. And that we've had that commitment in writing that we will have that lease already straight away in place the minute the break clause is invoked. So I think that answers that question. In terms of the numbers that we're talking about, we have the ability as a charity to apply for funding to some substantial pots of money, not just Arts Council, but many other organisations and funding bodies. And the important part there was that we needed more than 20 years on our lease. So the fact they've given us 50 years on our lease, we can apply, particularly with the support of Taunton Town Council as a partner, let's say, in this. it opens up lots of different funding avenues to apply for the big chunks of money that we need for the auditorium electrics, for roof repairs, that kind of thing. So what we would be seeking from Taunton Town Council is very much to help us along with the maintenance type of things and partner with us in applying to those funding bids. So, for example, the first one on my list is the auditorium electrics, which I will start looking at next year, once we've got our new lease committed and an arrangement with Taunton Town Council to work in partnership. We've already got some ideas because it's very much on the sustainability agenda, so there's lots of places we can go for money to cover those really big things. So that commitment, we wouldn't be seeking that commitment from the council other than supporting partnership.
Councillor Bastine.
Sorry, thank you for that answer. I don't know if the officers can confirm, if government inspectors do go in, do they have the power to effectively sell everything and very, very quickly? Because that's my only concern with it. I know leases and things would be agreed and things, but if government inspectors come in, they can just overrule that, I'm assuming.
Come back in that, but at least as a legal document, so there's no way that the government inspectors could break the law and rip up a lease if it's in place, and as they said, so they would be hamstrung by that once it's in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So can we now then look at what we've been asked to recommend? So the recommendation is that Somerset Council have offered Taunton Theatre Association a new 50-year full repairing and insuring lease commencing from April 2026 for the Brewhouse Theatre. Taunton Town Council, in support of this, to enter into a formal partnership arrangement with Taunton Theatre Association, supported by a multi-year service level agreement to facilitate the continuation of the theatre in its current premises. We have to note that the final terms of the SLA, including any subsidy amount to be determined in negotiations, to be delegated to the clerk in conjunction with the leader of the council and chair of community in place with the Theatre Association, and set via the 26-27 budget, and the final SLA to return to the council for ratification. And the council is to resolve to demonstrate its intent to work with all parties involved to support the Brewhouse Theatre and its continued operation as a leading regional centre for theatre and the arts, in strategic alignment with the town council's arts and cultural strategy and its adopted priorities. So I need a proposer and a seconder and a show of hands for this, please. Councillor Ellis and Councillor Strauss, thank you, and a show of hands, please. Okay, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you very much. So moving on to Priorswood Library funding requests. And this is we're calling on Mr. Darren Smart to present the item.
Much. Wait for the slides to go up. Thank you. So just to discuss, obviously back in May, I came to see Taunton Council and we discussed the possibility of funding of 3,500 towards Priorswood Library to ensure further staffed hours, which was put in place through an agreement in June 2024 and for 3 years, which I'm very grateful for being put through. Following that meeting, I was asked to go to Taunton Town Council's Financial Committee, apologies for the fact it says board, to discuss the potential for further additional staff hours on that basis. At that meeting, I confirmed it would be possible at a cost of £875 plus that, which is obviously a VAT-free, I presume, per annum for each additional 1 hour a week of staffing. So it's just to simply make it as flexible as possible to price up what you might want to do. And at the meet, obviously, I was asked to subsequently attend today, not least of which because we had committed to giving you feedback on an annual basis, but to come back on as asked to do this, I wanted to provide a bit of an update on where we are, bearing in mind it's only 2 quarters, less than 2 quarters formally, that we've got data for at this stage. But I just wanted to show you what impact it's had already for the residents of Prizewood. So thanks to that initial support, we are obviously providing professional staff to help manage the day-to-day function of the libraries. Now that's not just boring stuff like putting the books back. This is actually enabling them to provide expert support for people to find the information and resources they need to support the development of literacy across all ages and a whole range of essential digital support. In particular, I know we've been running examples there of helping people get signed up for the NHS app, which is becoming absolutely essential to get your prescriptions, for example, and many of our elderly residents are struggling with that. We were able to move in early on Prizewood because we had the commitment for the staff to make it accessible. We also have enabled a range of activities and events supporting the local community. Many of them look like fun, but they've actually got serious messages behind, and I'll show some examples that's been moved through. Deliver more baby rhyme time and story time sessions. These are proven to get children better equipped to start school, give them considerable advantages, and to take it on. And it is important that we get those available to the most disadvantaged children, which is what we're trying to target with the way we're engaging with groups for that. We boosted participation in the Summer Reading Challenge, which I thank my staff, local volunteers and people engaged with us. This is a fantastic outcome for Prizewood because it's one of the few areas that actually increased take up in Summer Reading Challenge this year. We have obviously we've also increased school visits in order to again encourage children to see the library as a place they can come to, feel safe and explore things as they want to. We don't provide formal education, but we do provide them the ability to educate themselves over a very wide range of topics. And we've been able to increase digital access through a whole host of means in there. Most importantly here, I'm seeing is people borrowing iPads, again, to gain accessibility from at home to support themselves in various manners, including people coming out of hospital to be able to do online shopping. Not something you would naturally think of, but that's actually getting them out of the hospitals at the moment now 4 weeks earlier than if they don't have access to it. We've got thermal imaging cameras now targeted here, a whole bunch of other resources, but the customer access points is probably the most used. This is the area with the highest usage of those customer access details. It's enabling people to apply for their benefits, housing support, household hardship fund, as we've heard as well, is it's through that and supported to be done. It means you've got experts who really know how to get that through for you, helping you. Okay, and of course the ever faithful Wi-Fi and business, which in fact we were aware there are at least 3 people running businesses here in Prizewood through the library services and own to have the IT they need. Okay, some statistics to back some of that up. It's easy to say nice things, but it's always good to see some numbers to back it. Over the first 2 quarters, we've had 9% increase in footfall during the staff opening hours. That is well above the current 5.5% that we're seeing across the county. So again, targeting the hours where it can have more impact is paying off. We've got coming in so far 97 additional volunteering hours with a specific focus on supporting activities. And again, it comes back to activities are there to generate outcomes, not just, you know, nothing like just doing some colouring is going to be included in this, unless it's mental health colouring. Okay, so 332 hours of supported public network access in the first 2 quarters. That's through the staff being able to deliver help and assistance to get people on. The NHS app being a good example. That's the area we've got quite a lot of requests for, because it is difficult if you're not IT literate. And again, we're seeing increased loans in digital devices. We have had some devices in other areas where we are not able to provide them with data currently. That's being sorted out by 1st of January for us, as we've now got a new supplier. But we ensured that we targeted devices with support to Priorswood, Watchet, and Ilminster, where we had the highest need for that, for people to be able to access. Okay, so next slide, please. Events and activities. Repeat, this is 2 quarters and we didn't have most of quarter 1. 169 events and activities attracting over 1,800 attendees. That's all purely local stuff. Weekly activities including rhyme time, story time and Lego club. I highlight those. Rhyme time is about improving language, confidence and social interaction skills before they go to school. Story time is about improving the literacy, not only of the kids, but also the adults as well. And the Lego club, which we always get queries about when we do that, it is good fun and like to bring the kids in, but B, it's actually teaching some very important basic engineering and mathematics skills without them knowing they're learning. So we have also, there's been a number of special events come on. I must highlight the Friends of Taunton Library, who support activities not only in Taunton but out in Priorswood. Their ability to get money and get us authors that we can't hope to approach to get is amazing, and it is again proof that working together in the community has a huge difference. But we're talking about children's author events and a whole host of others, but there was obviously environmental activities which were appealing to children and adults. A variety of ones, including one from Taunton Lisbeth, which was targeted towards local school children to expose them. And the picture on the bottom right is Alex Cotter, who was the person who supported that activity as the author, and thoroughly enjoyed it, and has said that she will happily come back again if we would like her to, because she thoroughly enjoyed the engagement with the kids. Halloween yoga sessions. I wasn't quite sure what yoga had to do with Halloween, but hey, we go with it. Top left there, very active. That's actually about not only providing some physical help, physical health encouragement for children when it's very important to them. The breathing training they do in that is actually being used in schools now to help kids cope with the stress when they first go in, as a method of supporting them to avoid, finding school too traumatic. Art felting, I had a go. I am clearly not an artist. That's all I'm going to say. The one was not mine. That was a 5-year-old who sorted me when it came to doing this. And of course, our friend Garwin with the bug and reptile event. Yes, I'd like to say that in that particular one, it was notable the children were all the front petting the snake. The adults were climbing up some of the stacks in some cases. Okay, moving on. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, her ground is a brilliant example of how this supplied space for groups to have consultations in such an important way with the local community, to reflect what the local community want, and also to help publicise their particular agendas and needs. The Purple Chair scheme, obviously provided by the NHS to help support and signpost women and girls to support services around health and wellbeing resources were vital. I didn't have a picture for that one, unfortunately, but there's some purple shells there with James having a lovely story time with the kids. So we could move on, please. Right. Events and activities. Now, this is another thing as well. Obviously, for people with more challenging needs. For children, well, under the age of 16, we have to, they actually can't access readily with Open and Plus. So in order to be inclusive, we do this. So we've actually put on a host. I've invested resources from my outreach and development team to boost what we offer you here off the back of those hours of the standard staff. You're getting high quality experts in the areas coming in. So the panel on the left shows you an activity using something called a buddy, which is an interactive projector. And that's actually being used to support people with dementia. We also offer playlists for life and a host of other supports around that, including a bespoke, medically supported, so as in it's provided by consultant medics and specialists in the areas of dementia and associated functions to help people be able to learn more about the condition, manage it either themselves or for their care, to support their carers. Also, the events themselves allow the carers to go off because we have qualified people there to take care of their charges as needed. And likewise, supporting arts and culture as evidenced by the example of the Curious Museum. So I can get to that one, so I can't answer any questions on that. Sorry, folks. Next slide, please. Summer reading challenge. 76 children registered at Priorswood for the SRC, well over 200 also in Taunton Library. But the key thing here, registering at Priorswood is 76. That's 10 up on the year, or 16%. This is when, on average, we reduced. Last year was the best year we've ever had for the summer reading challenge. It is theme dependent, but Priorswood is bucking the trend by getting more kids involved, again, because they're feeling more engaged with the library in general. 44 new sign-ups from kids age for this as well, but retracted by the assemblies run at 4 of these by the outreach team and local, following up with local staff as well. In parallel, we've run the weekly Priorswood in the park activities to encourage people to come along, or even if they don't come along, to take part in some of the reading challenge out there without realising. Events we've already mentioned before, but the biggest impact that I'd like to draw attention to is this is over the summer holidays. That is a small group of children, and some probably not taking part, coming to the library in general, borrowed near over 1,700 books across that period. That is a phenomenal amount. It's proof that this improves the desire to read and gives them the opportunity to do so free at the point of use. Next slide, please. So, next steps. Where do we go from here? Well, we're introducing daily wage scales and STEM club. STEM, sorry, is science, technology, engineering, maths club on a sort of trial basis for 1 or 2 sessions to let the partners involved see how that works. And we're obviously going to do a Christmas time story time for families, which I'm not proposing we need to start extra staff to run on a regular basis, just there to be honest. But the first 2, if there is seen as a need and a response from the community, it would be dependent on staff hours, because both groups would require staff to enable the relevant age groups to take part. And at the end there, it just reiterates the costing per hour, but it's just about some suggestions or opportunities. So I'm keen to understand what Taunton Town Council would like to see additionally at the library, if there are things, but I would chiefly like to make a suggestion. We noticed that where we've opened up 2 afternoons running till 5:30, we're getting notable numbers of children coming in the evening. It's because they need access to computers and data and, bluntly at the moment, warmth in order to be able to do their homework and be supported. If we were to put staff in, 4 hours of staffing in on the Thursday afternoon, that would enable us to run an adult session and do things to support in various bits of adult community in the early afternoon. Then we could do a homework club for 3:30 till 5:30 as well. And we would look to recruit. We have a line into some excellent ex-teacher or ex-teaching assistant personnel who would be potentially willing to come in and do that. But again, they are dependent on having the accessibility through staff being present. That's also how we ensure they're all, I should say, DBS checked, and the staff with them are trained to supervise them as well, in addition to their own DBS levels. So that's one possibility, but I'd love to hear if you had any other things, or if anyone's got any general library questions, now's the time to get me.
Okay, councillor Ellis.
Thank you for that brilliant report, Darren. My God, that's money well spent, isn't it? It's just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. So I think we should be supporting. I mean, I was just going to say, you know, what does Taunton Town Council want to see more of the library? What's the community need? So you've already set out that there's a need for additional staffing on the 2 afternoons.
One afternoon at the moment.
One afternoon. If that's not covered in this earmark thingy, then I think we need maybe to add to it. And I'm sure there's a pot we could draw on for that. If it's a need now, and it seems blindingly obvious, you know, that it would be a benefit, why don't we just step in and meet that need now? And I think as time goes on, Darren comes back, reports, and then he can tell us what are the additional things that they would like to do that would meet community need.
Councillor Patty, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Councillor Ellis said. I think if we have the capacity to support Knaresborough Library to extend their offer, particularly during the winter months, I don't know whether we're looking at a proposal to extend up until April or whether this service level would then go into next year, but I'm definitely behind the idea of extending support. If we do have manoeuvrability in our budgets, I am aware that we do have an underspend in a cultural development pot, and this may well be a good fit for a portion of that. Have you?
With the 875, is that to have more staff hours from the staff you have already, or is that for new staff to be employed?
In terms, it can, from the perspective of recruiting somebody, I would say it's probably more likely that if you put in the hours, was put forward 4 hours, it's quite hard to recruit someone to work just 4 hours a week. And so it probably would be part-time staff we already had working there, people know, to give them the opportunity to provide it on an extra afternoon. But if you would prefer new, you know, that's something that would make it more attractive. We can look to do a new employ. You know, I've got, for example, I've got an excellent apprentice over in Taunton at the moment who will be qualifying around the end of March, who would be an absolute asset to be retained if there was work for him, yes. But it's also, you know, that is per hour, and obviously that's why we gave it to give you the flexibility. You know, I'm cheekily saying we could do this, but it's, if there are things there that people want, we are happy to provide this, but it is dependent on the staff access. If we're targeting children or other vulnerable groups where they need that bit of extra help to use the facilities.
Councillor Isaacs.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to echo Councillor Ellis and everybody else's comments so far. I don't know whether this would be appropriate, but item 18 we have on the agenda this evening is ward members' initiative schemes, which Councillor O'Donnell's and my ward do cover a portion of the area, which is Wellsprings. And we've got a vacancy at the minute for Lincolnford, which covers a big part as well. There are some monies there in those areas as it's split down on item 18. I just wondered if we could utilise some of that for this. It would seem to be, to me anyway, to use some of that funding, if applicable and appropriate, to make this bigger and better than future.
Councillor Stayhill.
Yeah, and I think opening a Thursday that is so important for the community, and having such a good facility closed for the whole day during the week seems crazy, it really does. But the importance of the afternoons for children in particular is so important that going forward, you know, potentially in the future with additional funding, is looking at the afternoons of the Mondays and Wednesdays. I think especially in the winter months, when it comes to children having somewhere to go after school or studying, doing any homework, I think it's really important. So yeah, I think this is such an important place for the community. We should support it as much as we can.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Pasquini.
Thank you, Chair. I think with Private Library, as Dan's already stated, it's not just a library, it's a hub. It offers so many more things than just books. And I think if this council was to invest in absolutely anything, this is one of the top things this council should be investing in. This is about life opportunity, changing lives, closing the gap on online isolation in itself, just pretty much everything, speech and language, everything. And I actually think this is an opportunity for this council to be quite radical with it. So I would propose, and I ask Darren, what would £10,000 per annum look like for the library? Because I think that is probably it's trebling the funding effectively, but that will give you so much more as an outcome across the whole entire town council area than anything else, in my personal opinion, and will help bridge the gap between areas of deprivation and areas that aren't, because that library is a vacuum for people from all over the area. So that's one of what I would propose if there's a manoeuvre to do that. What would £10,000 per annum look like as funding for the next 3 years, and is that achievable for this council? Because I believe that's where one of the things is a priority we can be putting on.
Darren, can you respond to that?
Yes, if to put in, obviously the 3,500 would put in, if to put another 7,000 on top would provide you with 2 afternoons, as we talked about, the 4 hours. That's supporting, give us the ability to do the early afternoons for adults and the afternoon. That would be a cost-effective way of providing it, because obviously it's much easier to attract then. The other thing I would say is if you actually bring it into your 3-year scheme, obviously the other thing is, because I hold the price at the price I quote, that actually saves you some money in the longer term, because obviously it protects you from the staff's braces. I cover that through my core thing, and equally I will continue to put, regardless of the decision, I will continue to put my development outreach officers where I will get preference, because we have a need there. We need to make.
Councillor Deane.
I think Councillor Pasquini has absolutely nailed it for me. Couldn't agree more. I think you're absolutely spot on. Thank you, Darren, for the clarity that you bring with how much value essential community asset brings. I tend to agree that I think we should be far more bold and do something. I think the £10,000 a year sounds sensible. Practically, and I don't want to be this guy, but I want to make sure we follow the right process, but get to an answer quickly. So because we've not got a recommendation this evening around the budget number, I don't think we can agree to do that this evening. No. But I'm thinking, because finance and governments are meeting next week anyway, could we delegate authority this evening to finance and governance to make that decision? We could work with Darren over the next couple of days to put together what the options might be, and enable that committee to make a decision next week on that. So that, I just want to keep pace behind it. But I don't think we can do it this evening as much as I think we all want to. To make sure we don't get ourselves in any trouble with the auditors. That's right.
Yeah, that's correct. It's not on the agenda to pass a motion like that tonight to support it. But the finance and governance meet next week, so we can get a paper together. You can agree a decision in principle to delegate to the finance and governance committee, and we can consider it then.
Councillor Tully.
Thank you, Chair. I've supported this for a long time, and I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you the question: has West Monkton now stopped all funding for you?
West Sampson are providing us £500 because they have 66 registered members still coming over from there to use Prizewood as an active choice rather than using Taunton Library because of the strength of feeling they have towards this community as well.
Thank you. Councillor Deacon.
So just as on my previous point, I don't want to propose it. I think it was Councillor Deane's idea. So if he was happy to propose that suggestion, I'd be happy to support him that we delegate finance and governance to pick this up next week to make the decision. But if you're happy with that,
Okay, okay, thank you. So can we just then, oh, sorry, Councillor Strauss.
Thank you. I think this is an outstanding proposal. I will definitely want to support it. The only thing that concerns me is we all now very aware that Prizewood provides these facilities for people around Taunton. Some people convinced that Taunton aren't aware of it. And I think it's very important that we consider publicising the fact that Prizewood is a town facility that's available to all residents of Taunton. Some people might think it's just for people in that particular area.
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, yes. Okay, so can we note the update on the operation of the current Prizewood Library SLA previously agreed upon at the full council on the 21st of May 2024, and consider areas for enhancement of the current offering, which will be taken on by next week by the committee. Resolved and that we resolve to approve the funding request and earmark the reserve of £3,500 per year for 3 years. Sorry,
That was the last.
that was the last one. So we're going to consider enhancing the offer for the ensuing years. Yes.
Delegate it to the Finance and Governance.
And delegating it to the Finance and Governance Committee. So could I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor Faschini, and a second, Councillor Tully. And could I have a show of hands, please? Thank you. That's unanimously carried. Would be a very good initiative. Yeah, I agree. Right, moving on to item 14, equality impact assessment, and I believe Gail Chadwick is going to introduce this.
I'll do. I can do it.
You're going to do it. Okay.
And yeah, it's the officer who wrote the report is not here. So just to give you a bit of background on it, obviously the report covers the responsibilities under the Equality Act 2010. It outlines our responsibilities and duty. It was also something that was considered in the peer review and something that we committed to doing. The report just takes you through the background about the Act, the different sections to it. Also takes you through the responsibilities that we have as a public body and what it is that we need to protect going forward. There's a few elements to it. There is the training, so it talks about the training that will be offered to members. A committee template, so a report section will be added for all of the duties to be considered with everything that we do as a council for individuals, for members of the public and for staff as well. It also gives you some detail on the guidance and a produced document that was Appendix D. The intranet, so it tells you about the information that will be added to the intranet for staff to access as well. It talks about the risks that obviously as a council that you would face, obviously, if you don't undertake the work involved with this proposal. And there's 3 recommendations within the report, and that's to note the legislative requirements for the Equality Act 2010 and what's placed on the council, to agree to the approach set out in respect of its introduction, including the guidance, template, training and information sources, and to acknowledge that all members will undertake training in this area as well.
Are there any questions this item? So in that case, could I ask for a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor Ellis, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Furman, and could I have a show of hands? Yes, again, unanimously held. Okay, and on item 15, I call upon Craig Stone to talk about the pop-up shop.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, councillors. So I'll just provide some kind of background information. The report that you see in the agenda plan was actually a report that was presented to the committee. So there's some terminology that's a little bit out, but the recommendations kind of remain the same. So just to provide some background information, so the pop-up shop initiative was approved by council back in November 2023. Subsequently, the working group was set up and a variety of units across the town centre have been kind of discussed and evaluated. I think it was really important to note that the vacant units we have around the town centre actually don't hang around too long, and the turnaround or turnover of those vacant units is actually quite strong. But later this year, financial priorities on devolution discussions between us and Somerset Council were taken precedent, along with other considerations, which led to the recommendation to the committee on the 24th of September to postpone and subsequently for full council to note. So just to add a bit more background, the Community in Place Committee called an extraordinary meeting in November to consider the Christmas offer in Taunton this year, where at that meeting it was resolved to utilise the economic development budget line to support the free car parking incentive for the last 2 Saturdays before Christmas. The budget holds £25,000, which £22,000 of was used for the car parking incentive. So members are to note approve the recommendation of the pop-up shop to pause the project whilst conversations continue with Somerset Council on devolution until the new financial year. Thank you, Chair.
Are there any questions about this one? Oh, sorry, Councillor Strauss.
Madam Chair. Could I just ask you, Craig, as a matter of interest, the Sheppy's pop-up shop, which is in the Orchard Centre, it's actually got a frontage on the high streets as well. It's a particularly attractive unit. Have you any idea whether that's within our budget?
Thank you, Councillor Strauss. I'm not aware of the Sheppy's pop-up shop, so there's no kind of implications on our financial budget for that.
I can answer that. It's actually, I don't think it will be within our budget because it needs such a lot doing to it. It's on the exactly opposite TK Maxx. And I think it would, I don't think it's within our budget because it's only the ground floor that you can actually use at the moment. It's a beautiful building, I agree with Councillor Strauss.
Yeah, I remember when it was vacant, we did look at it and it was outside of our budget range.
Thank you.
So we're asked to approve the recommendation that the pop-up shop to be paused while conversations continue with Somerset Council on devolution. So can I have a proposer? Thank you, Councillor Hughes, and a seconder. Thank you, Councillor Pasquini. And could I have a show of hands as well? Yeah, I think that's everybody. Thank you. And going on to Community in Place, transfer of funds, and I think Councillor Nico O'Donnell is going to introduce this.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This came from Community in Place at the last meeting. The civic budget has been spent this year. We will transfer money from the earmarked reserves to the earmarked reserve. The shortfall. Community in Place agreed this, but because it's from an earmarked fund, it has to come to full council for us all to agree. Just to give some background to the shortfall, in September, the Community in Place, we were presented recommendations or 3 options for Remembrance Sunday. It seems that national guidelines have come into place that have forced us or kind of really led us down the road to implement much more stringent safeguarding arrangements in terms of putting barriers along the streets to mitigate any rogue vehicles that might try and come and our arrangements. Those were in September. We were presented with a pre-option, and we did at the time go for the higher of the options. National guidelines are coming through. We would be expected to implement them in future years, so we decided to go this year, and that has increased the amount of money we need to defend the civic budget. And my understanding of it, which is why we're being asked to fund from the in as a civic earmark as a into the civic budget for this year. Please do support this one.
Are there any questions about this one? Okay, then I think we can go on to consider the recommendation from the Community and Place Committee to note the transfer of funds from the EMR Civic Reserve to balance the civic budget line by the end of the financial year. Could I have a proposer, please? Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell, and seconder, Councillor Tooze. A show of hands again, please. Yeah, I think that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item 17, a review of the 24-25 budget reallocations. And Councillor Tully, you're going to introduce this.
Thank you, Chair. The word that I think there should be used, is it elements? Yeah, it took me a long time to get that one out. Right, to move the funds from different accounts to bring forward other things we can actually do in the future, near future rather. More, as was told just now, ward members, initiative funds. I think staff also is needed in that extra cash. Capital projects like Wall Street is in it. I'm going to be naughty now. I'm going to turn it over to Claire to ask the questions. She knows better than I do. Gail.
Just putting it into context, we've put a number of budget items in place in service growth and improvement, which haven't come to fruition. So there was devolved building maintenance costs and devolved building repair costs and devolved service and staff costs, TP costs. So this is to move those budgets around so that we can do things in this year. The first one is from the devolved building repairs, which is for the ward members initiative for 100,000. Also from that, we underestimated in last year's budget the amount of IT costs that we would incur due to the number of staff that we've been taken on. So that's seeking a capital cost budget of 60,000, again from the 250,000 devolving building repairs. Also to move monies to capital projects of 90,000 because the capital projects budget is already spent. In addition, we're asking for the devolved TUPE costs, which haven't been used because the TUPE stuff had just been considered within the existing staff budget, moved to the staff budget so that we can recruit early for the open spaces staff that we're going to move April. And because of the cost of the depot that was agreed up to full council last council meeting, asking to move the devolved building maintenance costs, which was 200,000, to the new depot to cover those additional costs. And there was 17,000 left in the improvements budget, which we're asking to move to Paul Street. I'll work on. So those are the environments that we're asking for. And then there are some EMR movements. The employee benefits scheme was agreed by the personnel committee. We're asking there to move 20,000 from the staffing earmark reserve to cover those costs. At the end of the last financial year, £6,000 was put into EMR service improvement to cover the playground assessment that was reported at the last meeting. now have the bill for that, and it's asking to move that £6,000 to cover that cost from that earmark reserve. Also, we have equipment costs, involved services for parts maintenance, which we're asking to move the £100,000 budget to cover the additional capital expenditure on equipment for services for open spaces that we also need in place in advance of the new financial year. Finally, parts and play equipment. We have 2 earmark reserves, and this is just recommending that we amalgamate those two. One is for parts maintenance, improvement, repairs, and the other is play equipment. We pull those two together, that becomes 172,000, and there's 90,000 in the existing budget this year that hasn't yet been used, which we would move over at the year end to support the project. The play park. So those are what went to the request that went to the Finance and Governance Committee, and they're recommending that those finance and earmark movements are completed.
Okay, are there any questions about this item? So everyone is, if everyone's happy to go ahead, can I have a proposal? Budget reallocation. Thank you, Councillor Burnett, and a seconder, please. Thank you, Councillor Stainville. And a show of hands. Yes, I think that's unanimously carried as well. Okay, back to Councillor Ray Tully to introduce us to the Ward Members Initiative Scheme.
Thank you, Chair. This is well, to me, an absolutely first-class idea. I remember when I was on the county council, we did this, and the money that I managed to do for my division, I could do quite a lot of work with. I'm certain I'll be told off if I get it wrong, but this is for individual boards, not individual councillors. People asked me already, is it for each councillor gets the same amount? Well, I'm certain me and the deputy chair would more than like it each, but we're not going to get it. So the only thing I'm not certain about is what is the restrictions on it. We never discussed it, I must admit, and I've looked at it and sort of thought afterwards, is there restrictions? Maybe the clerk could explain that to us if there was anything. Thank you.
Yeah, there isn't restrictions as such, so there's obviously processes that you need to follow. So you would come up with your scheme, it would go to the Communities in Place Committee to be reviewed. There's suggestions and ideas of what the money can be used for, but it comes down to you know, as a council you hold the general power of competence. So if there's anything that an individual could do, as long as there's not a law that, you know, prohibits you from doing so.
Sorry, Chair, the reason I did that purposely is that everybody in the room heard exactly what they are, and that I'm not trying to interpret them my way. This is what we have to do, but I would recommend that all councillors would vote for it. It's a brilliant idea. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Councillor Baskini.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, love the idea. The only thing I just wondered about the proportionality of the distribution of the money. Wouldn't it have just been easier to go 100 grand divided by 20 and it's 5 grand per councillor, which means there's an equal amount of money to go around for each councillor, and some of those areas, particularly who might need it a little bit more than other particular areas, will then feel the benefit better that way. I'm just thinking, you know, for the leader of the council over here is only going to get 2 grand, where 5 grand would actually go a long way in overage. But everybody's then treated equally as opposed to is done on residential numbers. So that's my only observation, and wondered if that could possibly be considered if the will of the council want to make that consideration.
Does anyone, Donna, can you respond to that? Yeah, if everybody's kind of treated equally and have an equal sum of money, Yeah, but we'd have to come up with a new name as it's classed ward members initiative scheme. It would have to be a councillors initiative scheme. That's something that council was minded to do. Councillor O'Donnell.
Since this money is going towards our residents, I'd rather.
Councillor O'Donnell, I can't hear you. Sorry.
I'll turn up my voice. Since this money is going to our residents, I'm always in favour of the method we have at the moment, where it's divided by our residents.
Councillor Staythorpe.
Different to you, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, something that does get raised by residents is, are we being treated fairly? And I have to be able to stand up in front of my residents and say, yes. You know, into Taunton Town Council, there's always a fear that money would be dragged into the parts of the town that might not benefit them. And I know you say that some areas maybe worse off than others, but every area has work that needs doing and have projects that their communities want. So I think by being fair and equitable, you can then stand up in front of your residents and say, it's done by headcount.
Councillor Strauss.
I'd just like to observe, the wards that have two councillors because they are bigger wards. Otherwise, we'd have one councillor per ward. So I think the idea that it's divided by 20 is probably fairer in practice. Just an observation.
Councillor Patrick.
If I could come back to that, the ward that has two councillors, and if the suggestion to divide it equally was went ahead, then library would receive £1,400 more. I don't think it's the best way to do it. I think that I'll echo Councillor O'Donnell's thoughts that this is money going back to our residents, and it is the fairest way to divide it up is actually by the demographics of the wards that we're in, and this may change as the demographics of the wards may change if houses are built or electors move. That may change over time, but I think that is the fairest way to do it. And apologies to the leader of the council who has the smallest ward.
Yeah, sorry to be a pain in this one, but Belvedere currently only receives one notice board and a bin that's currently looked after by this council. So you could argue that it's harshly treated in that respect. It has no other responsibilities in this council, is over in Belvedere. So having everybody being treated equally, as in the councillor, if you're a 2-member ward, you get 10 grand, and if you're a 1-member ward, you get 5 grand. That money can go a long way to helping those particular areas. If you look historically, particularly in areas where money hasn't been spent historically, like your Leafords, your Overbridge, your Prizewoods, whatever, then it would make things fairer. That's all I'm saying, as opposed to being on population. Because at some point, you're going to have Commentary is obviously going to explode over the next 10 years. So then it will just eat and eat and eat away as the years go by. So having an equitable and being fair by councillor numbers, I think would work better. And that, I think, would work better for the public. Because otherwise, they're going to see, well, they get X amount of money over there, and we get very little over here because we're a smaller ward. It's not fair, in my opinion.
I think we're going to have to. Sorry, Councillor Chu.
Yeah, I think I said very quickly, I know we pressed for time at the committee when this came forward, that this is a great opportunity for councillors to demonstrate to the public that we do stuff for them, and that we are looking out for them and really, getting another way to get the town council's profile raised and stuff. So I hope everybody, all the members, can use their allotted amount, and it brings real benefit to the local community in town.
I think maybe we need to defer this decision because until we, reach some kind of consensus whether it should be done per council or you don't think so.
I'd like to propose. I would like to propose this as it stands, and we can vote.
As it stands.
If it's not
Yes.
accepted,
Okay.
go back to the
Okay.
I think it's a perfect
Okay.
vote.
Councillor Tooth.
Quick question: does this come back again next year, the same amount, or is that right? So we could look at it.
Councillor Deacon.
Yeah, I tried to be quite honest because I do have a relatively small funding pot next to my name. I wonder, as often as these, whether a hybrid might be the best. So there's always a minimum amount that everyone receives, and then there's an additional amount based on population. So there's kind of a blended model that might work. I tend to agree. I'd love to have £5,000 spent instead of £2,200, £2,300. I'm loath, I think, to delay it too much. I quite like to get this up and running in year, and then as we're setting the planning for next year, we look and we learn, see what works.
Okay. Can I just pause this because we're going to have to ask for an extension. So for that, because we've run out of time, we need to ask for an extension so we can continue our discussion. So could I have a proposer for the extension, please? Thank you, Councillor Tully. And a second, Councillor Isaacs, and a show of hands, quick show of hands. Thank you. And we can continue in Councillor Ellis's say.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's definitely has a point, and I think also waiting by deprivation might be a good idea. I'm fine, I think maybe we should do it this way this year, and then have a proper look at it, how it continues on. What I would say though as well is that we're in danger. That there's lots of benefits to having a pot of money where you can say to your residents, what do you think we should spend this on, and they actually have a say. That's the main benefit, I think. It's not how we look, and oh, look, we're doing things, I don't care how we look. You should do stuff. But I would say that what we need to be really careful about is looking across the piece strategically at Taunton and understanding where the greatest needs are. And they're damn sure upon all our different committees and this strategy and somebody's pet project, whatever, but actually across the piece that we are really honing in on where there are issues that may have been neglected for many, many years. Areas that feel like they don't get anything out of the town council. There needs to be a strategic thing. So it's not just, councillors jollying off in, with their little pots and whatever, or bidding for X and bidding for Y. There needs to be a strategic view, I think, is more important than anything else, about what we need to deliver across the piece and understanding people's frustrations and lacks in their wards and understanding what we can do strategically about it.
This Councillor Stayhill.
Something I would really point out, we do actually prioritise by need. We can't sit here passing it on. We can't content done by priority of state of paper. Comes to what an individual or councillor can do, it has to be fair and equitable. We have to be able to go to the residents and say, yes, you all pay council tax, and this set's allocated the number of people in the area. And when you've got more people, you have more, you need more resources. I'm sorry, that is just a fact of life. We did already discuss points of where I think you can combine pots between two wards. And I've already had the discussion with one councillor who may need more money in the first year, so if we split money, they can maybe access some of the money from Taunton. And we can work together as councillors if that's what we're supposed to do. I think it's trying to have a pot of money for your area. It goes against everything we stand for, which is fair and equitable.
Councillor, I think it was Councillor 2, isn't it?
Yeah, so for everything else the council does, I totally agree with Councillor Ellis, but I think this is the exception. This is where we get to choose something as a ward member. So everything else that we do as a whole body, we look at the best value for what we do and the most need. But this is the whole idea for this pot, is for councillors to express and to give, without wishing to be political, to give people a reason to vote for us again. Because they voted for us to bring stuff to our individual wards. I'm a big advocate for Priorswood. I'm a trustee at the community centre, but I also represent Victoria, so I need some money to do that. That's just for this particular pot of money. That's all I'm talking about.
Okay, thank you. And Councillor Pasquini.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I wasn't trying to be difficult. I was just trying to future-proof this really, because as I said, in years coming, Commodore is going to expand, Staple Grove is going to expand. overage isn't going to expand, so year on year, he'll get less money and everybody else will get less money where there's no room for expansion. So I'm just trying to keep it fair. 100 grand divided by 20, 5 grand, bang.
Councillor O'Donnell.
Just to really just, I think we're kind of muddying the waters here by bringing in lateral discussions that are quite natural to this. This is we're haggling over money, but this is money that, well, initiatives on our ward, we haven't gone back to find out what our residents would actually want to spend it on yet. I mean, this is all us going consulting with residents. We have this money. What would you want to see in your ward? You have this much money, and I think dividing it by the number of residents, initiative for the residents. I think the lateral issues, I think, all need to come in separate discussion.
Councillor Strauss.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could I just ask the town clerk on point of order? If a proposal is on the table, can an amendment be proposed, and if so, do we vote on the amendment first and then it becomes the substantive motion?
Yeah, there is a proposal on the table, so I think you had a proposer and a seconder.
So I could propose an amendment?
You would have to vote on that, and then you'd have to go back to your amendment. Councillor Furman, yes.
I'm not entirely sure about the constitution, but I think if someone makes an amendment and the person who proposed it agrees with it, that can become part of the substantive motion.
Okay.
What's the proposal?
You propose that it would be a ward as it stands, and I would like the amendment to say by councillor.
It's going to defeat
it. That's going to defeat
it.
Okay.
Can we just go with what we have? And I think basically from what I've heard, we actually want to go ahead and see what it's like this year, trial it, and then see what it feels like, and then come back to it next year. And when we've actually had the experience, and then consider it again. I think that seems to be the consensus from what I've been hearing. And are we all happy to go ahead with it for this year, and then come back to Councillor Fraschini's proposal, have another think about that one for next year. But I think we should have a vote on this one for this year. And this is depending on the demographic, the numbers in your ward. So it just seems to me to be fair, since as everyone says, everyone does pay their council tax, and they deserve something back. They deserve a save. So is everybody happy to do that? Yes. So could I have a proposer, please?
You have a proposal.
Okay, and a second, Councillor O'Donnell. Thank you, and a show of hands, please. Okay, I think that's unanimous again. Thank you. No, anyone against? There was one against.
No, I wasn't against. I'm going to abstain.
You abstain. Okay, so thank you. Okay, moving on then to the Sanctuary Award application, and this is Councillor O'Donnell.
I might just give some background and then hand over to Marcus, who wrote the report. Is that okay, Marcus? Yeah. So last September 12th, we as a council resolved to adopt ourselves as a city of sanctuary. And that was based on the fact that my charity for the year was Caris, based on the fact that I had worked with Syrian refugees here in this town. I was privileged enough to teach 3 of the first 3 Syrians that were settled here in Taunton. They proposed that we became City of Sanctuary, or in this case, the Town of Sanctuary. We did resolve that last September. We've been a long time in the process, and there were 3 steps. One, we had to apply to the local national association, Sanctuary, which we did do. So we now have that as a logo on our website. the three main refugee charities here, Caris, Taunton Welcomes Refugees, and Graft, they have formed a community, City of Sanctuary group. This they did by February. At this point, the third element in our application is that we as a town council need to have an action plan or a strategic action plan that is all about us engaging with these charities, but also reaching out and engaging with those displaced people who are settled within our town, looking here for sanctuary, fleeing for their lives, either conflict, persecution, or just here for fear of their own safety. I would really like to hope that we would all support this strategy. I think it's very important. And once we have approved this, then we can now go about applying sanctuary status. So, Marcus, would you like to talk us through the report that you wrote?
Yep, thank you, Councillor O'Donnell, and thank you for the introduction. I won't go through the whole report, but I hope you've had a chance to have a read through and sets out sort of the steps that we've taken and in terms of an assessment of TTC's ability to meet the minimum criteria to meet the award. Certainly feel that we have met that minimum criteria. I will focus in on the section which is about recommendation 4, because that's come up relatively recently, and an opportunity there to apply to the SALC Community Health and Wellbeing Grant. So we've been working with the grants officer from TTC following an approach from Dave Mann, who's the Communications and External Affairs Director for Caris, and following a meeting he had with Fodo Higginson from SALC. So the Community Health and Wellbeing Grant is a pot of money that is due to end at the end of March 2025, I believe. So they're very keen, SALC, to ensure that as much of that funding gets out of the door as possible. Because I believe that if it's not then committed, it gets returned to Somerset Council. So they're wishing to do as much good as possible with it. Dave said that Fodo was apparently in agreement that many of the activities under the City of Sanctuary banner that could fit the SALC funding criteria of encouraging social connections, culture and creativity. He suggested a number of examples of the project that Caris and the local group could help deliver in partnership with Taunton Town Council. So it's listed in the report there about the creative projects, some discussions, training for staff and councillors here, as well as promotion of the concept to schools, museums and libraries in Taunton. And it could also not only involve those who have come as refugees or asylum seekers, but those who've made their home here from other cultures or countries to find work. So in terms of that grant pot, obviously there is a need for it to be match funded, and there's a maximum of £35,000 a grant. But we are, I know it says there in the recommendation about 35,000 match funded, but this doesn't have to be from straight cash, so to speak. It can also be staff time or commitment to delivering the project across multiple years after the initial grant has been given. So obviously it's early days yet. We haven't had a formal sit down with SALC yet to go through the necessaries in terms of the application, but I would expect that very much of that 35,000 match funded would be actually staff time from the charities that would be involved in the initiative, rather than TTC preset money. Although the intention is if there is any needed to be called on as part of this, that it would be coming from the cultural development pot of money that was preset as part of budget this year, which has got 50,000 currently, nothing yet currently allocated towards it. I have had a discussion with Councillor Ellis, who obviously chairs the Arts and Culture Working Group, about this in advance of tonight's meeting. So you're happy to take any questions. I guess the thing from City of Sanctuary was that, and the advice and guidance from talking to the 2 other town councils in the country that have got this status is very much, seek to enhance what you're already doing. You don't need to go off and do, big grand projects necessarily. It's all about enhancing what you're doing as a town council. So you'll see in the action plan there, there's things there around the open spaces and facilities that we provide, you know, the meeting rooms, etc. That, you know, it's just seeking to enhance what we already do to meet that criteria, which is part of your adopted corporate plan as well.
Councillor McDonald?
Yes, just like to thank Marcus for writing this. I mean, plus we have signed ourselves up to the local network sanctuary, but to actually identify as a town assembly, we do need to apply. And part of the applications, we do need a strategic action plan, which just goes to show how we are learning from the experience of displaced people, how we're sharing our resources and our ideas with the 3 charitable networks that are here in Taunton, and making available, you know, some of our resources, you know, just to help those people get back on their feet, find purpose in their lives. Especially, you know, as we hear in the news today, refugee crisis is still very much real. It's very real even today, as we're learning about what's happening in Syria. So I'd like to really endorse this.
Councillor Ellis?
Yeah, I'm very supportive of this in principle. I think education is key here. There is so much xenophobia out there. It's peddled by right-wing elements acting in bad faith, and people just sniff it up, snort it up, and then regurgitate it. And I think they feel scared and they feel angry because they feel they're being ignored, and they're being ignored by the powers that be, central government, who are not providing decent housing, funding for decent housing, who are not providing the funding for decent services. But it's all channeled into a sort of nasty kind of xenophobic whatever. So I think there's a huge need to encourage community cohesion and make people understand there are lots of different groups who feel neglected, rightly, who feel excluded, and actually there's we can make common cause. And also to really show how enriching all of these different communities are for our community. For everybody. So I think this could be quite important. Obviously we have to apply for the sanctuary award things so that we get the status and all the rest of it. I'm just a bit on recommendation 4. I don't think we want a blank check for up to 35 grand. That seems a bit excessive. So I would like to limit the sort of in monetary terms to 5 grand. Can we amend it to that, bearing in mind what Marcus has said, a lot of the the match funding can be shown in terms of, some of our staff time already. You've obviously spent a lot of time on this, and Chariot and other partners. So with that proviso, I'll absolutely support it. I just don't, the blank check thing worries me, because there was the cultural development money was meant to be there for something, but the thing hasn't been stood up so that we can spend it. So we just need to be careful we don't pull too much of that way, because there is a need for that money for other things. So with that proviso, I absolutely support this.
Councillor Donald, do you want to?
Yeah, I think you highlight one of the biggest issues, and the reason why we need a strategy is the education. And actually, strategy is about going out and educating. I think without that education, we can't engage with all our communities and really just put forward why we're important things that we do, and actually to educate that actually this isn't really impacting on your lives. So I think part of the strategy is the education, which is so important. In terms of the finance, the 35,000, I mean, the report is clear that it's not all monetary. It is in terms of time. So we're looking at officers' time. But in particular, the report does say it's looking at time for CARAS, because CARAS have funded posts which they are wanting to use. But part of the 35,000 is CARAS. But apart from that, Marcus, I think it's the suggestion: can we stipulate an extra figure that the council is willing to commit to, or maximum it's willing to commit to?
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Donald, yeah, we could do that as part of our donations, right?
Councillor Button-Hughes.
Yeah, I'm really supportive of it. I think it's really important that we have actions behind initiatives like this that can be quite easy badges to say, yes, we've done it. Who would say no? but it is really important that we have a strategy, that we have plans, that this actually has meaning and depth and worth to our community. I just want to pick up, it does mention the grants committee, that we have now amended our policy and our scoring criteria to give additional weighting to projects that support displaced people. So that we are already
been done, because I think people would let, we could do more of that in different places.
All under one banner.
All under one banner, and then that could be a part of a sort of programme that rolls forward, so that every refugee week there's more stuff, because people, we all want to see more things that everybody can take part in at more points throughout the year, for obvious reasons.
Yes, and we also, remember, we signed up to the Charter for Compassion, and this is totally a compassionate act, and yeah, and also Diversity Voice wanted to be included in the list because they work a lot with refugees, particularly with language. They do a lot of English teaching, and they go into schools and help children in the schools who are trying.
Really to the very centre of what we are, of one of our annual town events, and so yes, more of that, absolutely more of that, and that is what this plan hoping to achieve, or should achieve, to embed those people more into our cultural activities.
Sorry, Councillor Ellis.
Yes, I'm very excited as well, because there's going to be a focus on Moonings next year. Moonings and the Great Flood has been republished as the 45th anniversary. This is all tied in, I believe, to Refugee Week. So there's so many great ways in which you can, yes. But it just shows you there's kind of like stories like great books like that, which everyone kids can engage with. There's so many different ways of exploring this. Anyway, it's really good. Moons and the Great Flood. I recommend it.
Councillor O'Donnell. Can we? Yes. Okay. Final proposal.
Yes. So I propose, and I'm very happy to be.
So we're happy to propose that we give £5,000 to this project. Yes, initially. Good. Okay. So is everybody happy to adopt the Town Council Town Sanctuary Strategy and Action Plan? The submission of an application for the Sanctuary Award issued by the City of Sanctuary UK in order to obtain Council of Sanctuary status for the Town Council, and to appoint Councillor Nick O'Donnell as the Council's Sanctuary Champion and representative in liaising with the local City of Sanctuary group, and to support a joint application with CARIS, the local City of Sanctuary group, Somerset Association of Local Councils, Community Health and Wellbeing Grant Fund, with a sum of £5,000 to be submitted in January. Delegation to the clerk to finalise the detail of the application in consultation with our member champion. Councillor, Marcus.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, just to clarify, so that would be it will be for the 70 with 35,000 match funded, but your suggestion the limit is £5,000 match funded of cash in actual cash.
I think that was the proposal. Yes. So could I just have a proposer, Councillor O'Donnell, seconder, Councillor Strauss, and show of hands, please. Yes, I think everybody's happy with that. Yes, thank you. Right, next, access to motion to exclude the press and the public. The recommendation is that under section 184 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the items of business agenda item 21 and 22 on the grounds that it involves a likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 3 respectively of part 1 of the schedule 12A of the Act, namely information relating to the financial or business affairs of any particular person, including the authority holding that information. So could I have a proposer, please? And a seconder to exclude the public. Thank you, Councillor O'Donnell. And show of hands. Yeah, I think that's unanimous again.
We have a wee break.
All those